We have a little sheet to it, and he just travels everywhere we go, except if it's when we're on a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She travels with me.
Yeah.
I have a little car seat in the front. Little harness that goes on
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
I have a doggy door so she can go in and out when she wants to.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
All right, welcome. It's good to see everyone here. This is our second seminar in Analytical Hypnosis for Pain Management. The main topic today will be the nature of effective suggestions. So if you were in last semester's hypnosis class, this will be a bit of a review. But it's okay because these are good things to review anyway. And the practicum will be on how to create and utilize effective suggestions. All right, once again, course materials are available for download or review on our website, www.narrowgatealliance.org. Currently, everything's on the front page without any password protection. By next week, I will have moved it into its own area behind a password, password and login screen. The user ID is ANHYP Seminar. Analytical Hypnosis Seminar. And the password is NKA Fall 2012. So NKA Fall Semester 2012. All right, and of course this information is in the syllabus, which is on the front page in a PDF format, so you can download that and have that at any time. All right, availability of materials. The primary materials, like the PDF version of the PowerPoint presentation, will always be there on the day of the seminar. So this is already out there. You can go download it anytime you like. Other materials will be available, if everything goes well, no later than Thursday. And the audio-visual materials will be available probably within about 2 weeks. It takes quite a while to download them, edit them, then upload them to YouTube and get all that stuff done. So count on about 2 weeks to get videos from prior sessions. All right. Just an update on the research synthesis. I created the bibliography for its version 2 of the bibliography. There's 4,089 entries and 3 separate documents. You can download them. They're arranged alphabetically by author. One's arranged alphabetically by publication date. And then the last one is arranged alphabetically by subject. And I'll show you that one so you can see what we're dealing with. Okay, so this is the subject arranged by subject, and there are 225 different subjects that were consulted. I'm probably going to consolidate that list down a little bit because some of them are redundant, but you'll see that the category is just in alphabetical order. The number of entries in that category is in the 3rd column here, and the 4th column tells you what page it starts on. So for example, on this line here, Ancient Traditions, Western Mysticism, there's 1 entry in that category and it's on page 17. 28 entries in Autonomic Ballads, it starts on page 20. 15 for EEG, electroencephalography, and that starts on page 24. So as you can see, there's, some of them have more entries than others, 484 here for psychoanalysis, 152 for heart rate variability. But this is a little easier to use than just the big 4,089 number list, which is a little over, this one's a little over 300 pages. So this you can actually look at the subject you want to take a look at and then go look at the entries for that subject. And since it's a PDF format, you can search. You'll be able to go exactly where you want to go. You can either go to the page number or you can search on the category name. And this is what you'll see. The category there, acting, vocal instruction. Chuck Jones, Make Your Voice Heard. Ancient Psychology, Julian James. The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. I did put the subject here next to it so you can sort of get an idea of where it fits in. Sometimes there are subcategories, not always, but sometimes. All right, so that's just a useful tool that you can download, and it will give you additional information about the subject matter, as well as providing some validation for what you're learning here. Any questions about that? Okay, so let's review the knowledge lecture from Seminar 1, which involved a brief history of hypnosis from ancient to modern times. The basic ideas that I wanted to get across were, number one, that hypnosis started long time ago. As far back as we've been here, we've been doing hypnosis in one form or another. In fact, you know, if we were to go back to 10,000 BC and watch somebody practice hypnosis back then, we would recognize what they were doing. Likewise, if they were to come forward, they would recognize what we're doing here. It's the same thing. It hasn't changed. And it doesn't change because we don't change. And we don't change because the nature of reality doesn't change. So it is consistent and constant from the beginning to the present. Whatever they were doing then, we're still doing now. The information we have in the public record spans from about 6000 BCE, which are the first public records we have. That was when they started writing things down and started keeping records, to about 1700 CE. And it begins with the ancient mystery religions, who were using hypnosis in all of their secret initiation rites, as well as for healing, as well as for educating and training. So they were using it a lot during every part of their initiation and training into the ancient mystery religions. Finally, hypnosis in the modern world begins about 1700, begins with Mesmer, Franz Anton Mesmer, who developed a method based on alchemy, which we'll look at, I think next week, we'll take a look at it. We'll actually practice it so you can see what Mesmer was doing. And it goes from Mesmer all the way forward to the present day. Each year there's more and more research conducted on hypnosis and related subjects, and that research is published. There's bunches of it published out there every year. And so it's a continuously expanding understanding of the nature and practice of hypnosis from ancient times to the present. However, the basic underlying structure doesn't change, and the basic underlying method doesn't change. What does change is our understanding of how it works, why it works, some of the neurophysiology involved. But the basic practice has remained unchanged for thousands and thousands of years. All right, any discussion on that? Okay. All right, today we will be looking at three separate aspects of suggestion. Now remember that our basic definition of hypnosis is relaxation plus suggestion. So last week we had an introduction to relaxation. We'll continue that this week in the Practicum. And now we're going to learn how to make suggestions. And part one talks about Aladdin's lamp and how suggestions should be formatted. And then we take a look at Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which gives us additional information about how to make suggestions that are appropriate. And then finally in part three, we'll take a look at expectancy sets, Ideo-Dynamic Communication methods, and the creation of structured autosuggestions. So those are suggestions we can use for ourselves, and the same methods will be used for making suggestions for other people. All right, Aladdin's lamp. Lessons on wish formation. Okay, you may be wondering why it matters how we make suggestions. We just know what we want, put the person in a trance, tell them what we want, voila, we get what we want. Okay, that would be ideal. If that were the case, then you know, every one of us could become a millionaire tomorrow. Okay, But there are problems with suggestions and the way that they are structured and the intent behind those suggestions that we must, first of all, that we must become aware of, and that then we must avoid those problems with suggestions. Okay? There are two basic kinds of suggestions. One of them is a process instruction, and that's mostly what we will use, process instructions. We give them a simple process instruction like, think of a happy place. We don't specify what that happy place is. We allow that other person to pick the happy place they want to imagine at this particular time. All right? The instructions for relaxation are all process instructions. Contract these muscles, hold them, relax them. Those are all process instructions. There's no content. Now, the other kinds of suggestions have content involved. And this is where we start to run into difficulties. Each one of us has a built-in reluctance to listen to someone else's content. Now, there was a study that was done maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And between all of the advertising to which we are exposed, and all of the TV and all of the movies and all of the people that we meet, there is in excess of 100,000 targeted suggestions that we encounter every single day. People wanting us to do things, people wanting us to think things, people wanting us to help them, people wanting us to give them money, people wanting us to buy their products, people wanting us to do this and that and the other, and so on and so forth. Some of it is overt that we can recognize, some of it is very subtle. So we have developed a kind of effective filter that sort of prevents us from paying attention to a lot of the suggestions that we encounter, at least consciously. Now, the unconscious mind, this right here, will still pay attention to all of them and attempt to analyze them and act upon them. So we have to deal with that, and we'll deal with that later. But that's what we have to worry about when we are creating structured suggestions for ourselves and for others. They have to be suggestions that are ecological for the person. They have to merge with that person's belief systems, their systems of values. They have to be useful for that person right now. And so this is what we're going to be talking about now. The rules for making structured suggestions that will be beneficial to ourselves or to the other people. So everyone should remember, or be familiar with, the fable of Aladdin from Scheherazada's Tales of 1001 Nights. Now remember that she told these tales to King Shahryar in order to prolong her life. If we recall, King Shahryar, who was typical of rulers, in order to prevent his wives from dishonoring him through infidelity, would marry only virgins. Okay? Deflower them on their wedding night and then execute them in the morning.
Nice guy.
Okay? So you can imagine what happened to these. Yeah, you can imagine what happened to the supply of available virgins after a while here. Okay, he soon ran out of virgins to marry. So Scheherazade, who was the young daughter of the king's vizier, volunteered to marry the king to save her father's life. Because King Shahryar told the vizier, if you don't find me a virgin, I'm going to kill you. Okay, now he had protected his daughter up until this point. Now his life is on the line, so she volunteers to save his life by marrying the king, knowing that she has to come up with a plan to prolong her life beyond the single night. So anyway, she begins her first tale on their wedding night, but she didn't finish it. It's an uncompleted tale. All right, forcing the king to postpone her execution the next morning because he wants to hear the end of the story. All right, so very clever. So Aladdin means nobility of faith. That's what the name Aladdin means in Arabic. Aladdin in the tale is granted several wishes by a powerful jinn, a powerful genie. Jinn is an Arabic word meaning hidden. So once again, we run across two separate things that are related to our mystery religions. The concept of hiding things especially powerful things, and the concept of faith and nobility. This is where the jinns meet. It's called the Majlis al-Jinn, the gathering place of the jinn. It's located on the Somo Plateau in Oman. It's very deep. It's about almost 400 feet deep. And it's got a big, wide opening at the top, and it's like straight down. You can see the sides of the wall. So it's very difficult to climb in and out of. So this is a hidden location in the middle of the desert of Oman, and you can see the light coming down and creating that particular effect. So that's why they call this place the gathering place of the jinn. More hidden stuff. Okay, now there are many warnings in the literature about dealing with jinni. A lot of warnings. The most important warning is one must select one's wishes very, very carefully. If you recall, if you're imprecise about what you want, the jinn will give you what you want literally, and you'll be in big trouble. All right, so these basically are the rules for selecting safe wishes, wishes that cannot be turned to harm. Because that's the thing we have to do. We have to outwit the jinn and make certain that whatever we wish for is incapable of causing harm. So, first rule, it must be based on needs, not wants. If it's based on needs and not wants, that will satisfy the first rule. Second rule is must be obtainable. It's got to be something that's real. The third rule is it must be shareable. We must be able to share this with other people. The fourth rule is that it must be renewable. You can't take from somebody else. The fifth rule is that it must be harmless to others. Your possession of this, your acquisition of this, must be harmless to others. The sixth rule is it has to be self-congruent. That is, it has to mesh with your belief systems, your value systems, and who you are as a person and an individual. And finally, that it does not violate the law of polarity, which is if A is created, not A will also manifest. In other words, is the wish a zero-sum outcome? If I get it, does that deprive somebody else of it? Okay, so if it meets all of those 7 criteria, then it is a wish, that is a suggestion, that cannot inherently cause harm. Okay, so it would be impossible for this thing to cause harm, even if it's ill-conceived, even if it's not the right one. Okay, because we may have to tweak it a little bit after we've tried it. We'll have to see what happens and then tweak it until we get the results that we want. But if we start off with these 7 rules, we will not cause harm to anybody by our experimentation with these suggestions. Yeah?
Wishing to be out of pain, is that a need or a want?
That is a need. Okay, and we'll see. We'll let Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs tell us exactly what is a need. Okay? In modern times, Maslow, beginning in the late 40s, began to do an analysis on what are needs. And so he came up with the hierarchy of needs to sort of clarify and categorize and define what a need is in general. Okay? Other questions about this? Yeah?
Okay, so taking off from hers, how does the shareable part come in? So if my need is I want to stay well because I have a disease or something, I don't want to share it with somebody
No,
else.
you want to share your health with someone.
Okay,
Yeah, you're asking for, you're wishing for health.
okay,
And health can, of course, be shared with other people.
okay.
Through your activities, through your interaction with them, through your administering to them if they're ill. So yeah, health can definitely be shared. Okay, any other questions? Yeah,
Would health be obtainable
sure,
if you have a disease?
yes. Yeah, with all of our modern allopathic methods as well as all of the ancient healing methods, it is fairly easy to maintain a stable level of health if we work at it, if we're consistent at it. Okay? Now, certain things, I mean, if the situation has degenerated to the point where we're terminal, then it becomes a little dicey. Not impossible, but, you know, a little dicey. Okay, so at that point, we're just in sort of a mode where we have to eliminate and alleviate as much pain as possible. Okay, yeah?
If we're asking for good health, do we just sit there and it happens, or do we have to do our part?
We have to do,
Okay.
we have to work at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see that. We'll see that as we go forward doing this. This just guarantees that we're not going to, especially if we're working with someone else, we're not going to violate their integrity. Okay? And the reason why I bring this up is because hypnosis is the single most dangerous tool that we have to cause great psychological and psychophysical harm to other humans. Okay? Even with all of the safeguards built into our nervous system and built into our belief system and our sense of integrity, we can still be harmed by ill-conceived or deliberately conceived harmful suggestions from other people.
What's an example of that?
An example of that would be let's say that we're having an argument with a family member, okay? And the level of emotion, of emotional intensity reaches a peak, and then we start hurling insults and accusations and approbations and other things at each other, okay? Those are real. I mean, they're like magical incantations, and they have an effect. They have an effect on blood pressure. They have an effect on protein metabolism. They have an effect on carbohydrate metabolism. They have an effect on emotional stability. They have an effect on the actual physical structure of the nervous system. That's what I'm talking about. Now, taken to the next level, if I want to completely and totally wipe the mind of someone, I can do it. If I have them all to myself for about 9 months, I can completely wipe everything from their brain. Totally. They will not be able to do anything. They won't talk, they won't walk, they won't feed themselves, they won't bathe themselves, they won't even move. Okay? And then I can take them and create whatever I want. I can program them to do whatever I want. I can even give them multiple personalities.
You serious about this?
Absolutely serious about this.
Has that been done?
Yes, that has been done. It is being done right now.
Brainwashing?
Brainwashing. Yep. If we go back and take a look at the MK Ultra program from the 1950s up to the 1970s, it was never declassified, but the church committee in the mid-1970s brought forth a lot of the documentation. So it sort of blew the cover on MK Ultra, and they just changed its name and went on with it. But the church committee hearings and all of the documents that came out from that documented that they were doing this, that they'd started in the 1940s, that they'd accelerated it in the 1950s. Dr. Ewan Cameron was the chief psychiatrist in charge of the program here in the United States. He was based in Syracuse, New York, and he did all of his work across the border in Toronto. Why? Because what he was doing is illegal here. So he just went to Toronto. What he did was he would go out and he would select patients from among the Toronto, typically female population. He really liked to work with women who had just had a child and were diagnosed by him and his colleagues with postpartum depression. And he would take them and he would perform a series of operations on them, which he called de-patterning. And he wrote technical articles on this. You can actually go read the articles, how to de-pattern someone. And what you do is you take them away from their family, you put them in the institution, you keep them locked up, away from anything, you give them 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions of electroshock every day at about 4 or 5 times the normal voltage. You put them in insulin shock, you give them barbiturates and keep them knocked out forever. In between all of this stuff, you'll give them, if you want, you can drop in some mescaline and some LSD just to see what the hell happens. And then, when they're sleeping in a barbiturate-induced coma, what you'll do is you'll have very high-volume loudspeakers just broadcast either white noise, jagged noise, or programmed instructions that you want them to follow. And you do this for 9 months. And at the end of that time, you've got a walking zombie. And then you can begin to program them to do whatever you want. Now, there were multiple lawsuits filed against Dr. Cameron and the Central Intelligence Agency in the 60s. And all of the lawsuits were settled out of court, so we don't have a lot of details because there's non-disclosure agreements. But the victims, several of the victims, have been interviewed. And you can go out and find those interviews on YouTube. And you can listen to them talk and tell their story. And you can listen to their family members tell their story about how their mother or their wife went away because they were depressed after they'd had their last child. And when they came back 9 months later, they were drooling and didn't even know who they were. And it took them years to rebuild themselves. So this is dangerous, which is why we build in safeguards. Yeah.
And does this have something to do with these young girls that have been taken by these men and kept like for 18 years? That
Yeah.
was smart.
Absolutely.
What's the
they were able
question?
to control them.
Yeah. Oh, like for example, the young woman who had been kidnapped as a young girl, and 18 years later they finally find her, and she's had like, I think, 2 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 kids, and they were just hanging out in the backyard, basically, hanging out in tents. Yeah, and the Elizabeth Smart case. Yeah, there's thousands of those cases every year. The movie Taken is a very, accurate, as far as fiction can go. It's a very accurate portrayal of how that operation works and what they do with the girls and the boys once they get it. Yeah, there are estimated 3 million American boys and girls that end up missing every year. That are channeled into the slave trade. And this is what they do. They drug them, they use hypnotic techniques, not, like we're using, but, constant suggestion, repetition, all of those things that we know work in order to control them, in order to make them do what they want them to do. It's very nasty. It is the most evil kind of twisted nastiness you can imagine. And so even to research it just makes your skin crawl. But it's out there. I mean, and governments use it. They use it. All of the Bourne movies with Matt Damon, those are taken from the MK Ultra and other programs like that. So the most recent one, I think it's the Bourne Legacy, it's very accurate as far as to what they're doing. Now they've developed a series of virus and nanoprobes that selectively target certain portions of the brain and then destroy them so that you won't feel any pain, so that it will produce more adrenaline, so that it will create this sort of super soldier. So yeah, this stuff is absolutely real and well documented. So it's not even though the technical details are sort of secret, they're out there because they publish in the National Journal. They publish in the peer-reviewed journals that are out on the PubMed database. So it's like, okay. And they're not ashamed of it. They're totally not ashamed of it. Dr. Cameron was not ashamed of anything that he did, even though he ruined thousands. We don't even know the total number. Thousands of lives in pursuit of his technique. And they had a similar program in London. And everywhere else, all the governments have these programs. So that's why we have to be extremely careful. We're not usually going to be in situations where we could hurt somebody, but we want to make certain that we don't even do it by accident. Okay, usually we're going to be dealing with family members or friends or other people who are in distress and just need our help to get through it. Okay, but by following these rules, we are guaranteed to make certain that they know that they're not in any danger. One of the biggest problems that hypnosis has is that people watch movies and they watch cartoons and they get this idea that hypnosis can do all of these things. And it can. Okay? It can cause a great deal of harm. So we have to make certain that they understand that we're not going to let that happen. That it simply will not happen because we're following these rules. And once they understand that, once they know, because we'll take them through this process. And so by going through this process, they will know that we're looking out for them. Okay? So that's why I put this together, because of all the things that we learned, this is the most important because this will save lives. Any other questions or comments?
So is it always done with 2 people then,
Or more.
or more?
Yeah, as many
So
as
that
you
one
need.
person
Yeah.
can't go
Yeah.
off and things?
So, oh, you mean like, well, no, it can always one-on-one, because we're always gonna be working with people we know. Okay, family members, our children, our spouses, our relatives, our friends, you know, so there's no danger, you know, there's no danger of being one-on-one with them, because we're just gonna help them, and we're gonna follow these rules.
Well, maybe there's somebody crazy out there that would do it to their children, I suppose.
Well, there are, absolutely, there are people like that.
Can a person's will stop them from being hypnotized?
Under normal circumstances, yes and no. Okay? I mean, yes, if it's an overt attempt to hypnotize them, they can resist that, but there are there are ways around that if you wanted to get around that. Okay? Especially if you have the person where they cannot leave. Like, for example, if they're small or if they're you know, ill, you know, they can't move, they can't leave. If they're where they're trapped and they are in a vulnerable state already, then nothing will protect them. Which is why we have to protect them. Okay? Even from stray things. Even from, you know, even from random things that we don't plan. If we plan it like this, nothing bad will ever happen. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the evil is out there, the danger is out there. We're going to avoid it all by following these rules. If we follow these rules, guaranteed nothing bad will happen. Okay, and we can show that, or we can show that to them. So as long as we follow these rules and make them transparent to the other person or people, they'll know that we're also protecting them and that nothing bad will happen. Okay? Maybe because if we go back to the beginning, Mesmer, in the late 1700s, he's practicing in Paris. There's a lot of professional jealousy because he's healing people that the physicians cannot heal. Prominent members of the community. And so the Parisian government forms a commission, one of whose members is Benjamin Franklin. And their objective is to investigate and evaluate the scientific validity of mesmerism. In secret, they also send the chief of police out with his detectives to investigate allegations that mesmerists around the city are using their abilities to seduce young boys and girls and take advantage of their patients in this way. Okay, now this is secret. It's a secret report. You can read it. It's out there now. It's going to be classified and translated. You can actually go read it. And yeah, they found multiple cases of this. Sexual abuse under the guise of mesmerism, under the guise of healing. Okay? It happens today. All right? It happens today. Which is why we follow these rules, no matter what. And because the rules are transparent and because the other people are in on the process, there's no way any bad thing can happen. Okay? So that's why I'm really, why I emphasize this so much. Because it has been used for ill purposes a lot. And we have to avoid that. Because the cost to us is equally great. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
What do you,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What do you mean by renewable?
oh, you can do it again and again and again and again. Yeah, yeah. So that there's no. We're trying to make certain that we're not taking resources from other people. Okay. One of the wishes I could have is that I take all the food. Okay? You see, so, now I have all the food, so, you have to do what I tell you to do, otherwise you won't eat. That's the kind of thing we want to avoid with the renewable, the harmless to others, the shareable. Okay? Because that guarantees that kind of a situation will not arise. All right? If it meets those criteria. That way we're always going to be concerned about our welfare and the welfare of everyone else at the same time. Okay, yeah.
So, you're talking about that there has to be other people. You can't learn to do just if you're by yourself.
Oh, no, yeah, we will learn how to do it by ourselves. Right, but remember that the basic premise of the course is that we learn these techniques so that we can help ourselves. We learn these techniques so that we can help others when they cannot help themselves. And so that others can help us when we can't help ourselves. All right? There will be circumstances that we encounter, even knowing all of this stuff. There will be circumstances, probably in the not too distant future, that we will encounter where we are in so much pain we can't do it. We simply can't do it. We cannot muster the concentration or the memory or the willpower to actually do what we've been doing for 2 or 3 years, let's say. And we're really good at it, but we're in so much pain we can't do it. So that's when we have to rely on someone else who knows this, to come and just guide us through the process. Then everything that we've learned and everything that we've practiced will just automatically kick in and we'll be okay again. So that's the premise. That's why we're learning this, so we can help others and spread the knowledge around. Yeah, we'll be able to do it for ourselves, but we need to have others know how to do this as well, because there will be times, guaranteed, that we won't be able to do it. So the more people who know how to do it, the better off everyone will be. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, so you don't need another person to learn how to do this. But our intention is to make certain that it is available to everyone and that we can help other people. We'll learn how. We'll be comfortable enough that we can help even total strangers if the need arises. We'll know what to do. We'll know how to talk to them. We'll know how to approach them. We'll know how to do all of those things congruently so that we can help them through whatever situation. An auto accident, for example, where they need to, where we need to stabilize them until the EMTs get there, something like that. Okay? Does that make sense? Right. Let's see. Back. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs will tell us how to tell the difference between a need and a want. All right, so Abraham Harold Maslow, who lived from 1908 to 1970, he was professor of psychology at Columbia, New York, NYC and Brandeis University in Boston. Columbia University in New York and Brandeis in Boston. And he was the founder of the Humanistic Psychology School, an emphasis on growth, development, and evolution instead of on psychopathology. Studied the lives of geniuses to discover their psychological profiles, and discovered what he called self-actualization and peak experiences, based on his research with geniuses. So that was where he was coming from. Now, self-actualization is the motive to achieve one's full potential, which is the primary driver of the human organism. So in other words, we have an innate desire and an innate ability to improve ourselves. All right? Carl Rogers said man's tendency to actualize himself is the primary curative force in psychotherapy. Okay? In other words, the psychotherapist doesn't really do anything except reach out and create the circumstances where the person's natural healing abilities can come forward. They used to talk about the healing powers of nature, way back, Galen and Hippocrates. And the physician's job was simply to create the circumstances where those healing powers could act. In other words, the physician did not heal, God healed. The physician was just sort of a handmaiden that brought everything together so God could heal. And finally, Maslow created the hierarchy of needs and published it first in 1943 in the Psychological Review. Now, peak experiences are transpersonal or ecstatic states characterized by feelings of euphoria, harmony, unification, and interconnectedness. we will have those experiences as we enter a meditative state. We'll specifically build those in, as a matter of fact. Okay? Like again, as I said, developed by Maslow from his research on genius. All of his subjects reported several peak experiences during their lifetimes. These were spontaneously occurring peak experiences. We can design peak experiences for ourselves and others. Okay? William James, in the varieties of religious experience, talked about this. Peak experiences are transient moments of self-actualization. So this is basically where we're headed. Okay, here's the hierarchy. Now, notice that it's in the shape of a pyramid, because these down here, the physiological needs, must be met before we can even begin to think about meeting the next higher level needs. And likewise, these must be met before we can go here, there, there. So it's a hierarchy. So in other words, we have to look here first. So the physiological needs are breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, and excretion. If those are met, then the organism is in a position to go up here to safety needs, security of body, employment, resources, morality of the family, health, and property. Then we can start, concentrating on getting those needs met. When those are met, then we can go here. Love and belonging needs, friendship, family, sexual intimacy. When these are met, then we can go to esteem needs, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and respect by others. And finally, if all of those have been met, then we can go up to the self-actualization needs. But if these are not met, if the physiological needs are not met, if we're starving in the street and dying of thirst, we're not concerned about peak experiences, okay? Or even about friendship or anything else. We're concerned about meeting those needs. So that was the value of this particular structure, because it put here in front of us the concept that there were some needs that were priority and must be met. Questions about that? Okay, and then I just broke them out into a series of slides. We don't need to go over them again. Any discussion over those two parts of the knowledge lectures?
Can you ever get to the top ones if you don't have missing one of the bottom ones?
It's very difficult. It's really hard if any of the bottom needs have not been fulfilled. It's really hard to get to the top ones, because those other ones are always competing for our resources, our energy, our intentions, our will, all of the resources. So it's really hard to get to those levels. Now, that said, learning hypnosis, learning self-regulation through hypnosis helps us meet those needs a lot easier. Okay? And it also gives us more self-reliance. It gives us more self-control. It gives us more self-command, which is the philosophical term for the highest value for an individual. Self-command, courage, strength, and self-control. So that's what we try to have as much of, as often as we can. Courage, strength, and self-control to meet the demands that we face, that we encounter every day. To help others, to help ourselves, to improve the community, to do all those things that we want to do in order to have a healthy, safe environment in which to live. So that's what this is all about. And hypnosis is a key element in self-regulation, if not the key element in self-regulation. Learning how to do this will really improve your abilities. All right. Now, I'm just going to move ahead here. We can go over this later. Some technical stuff. All right. A structured suggestion in general, all right, combines these 5 things. Emile Coué, remember the guy, the French pharmacologist who came over and said, all you have to do is repeat over and over and over again every day and every way I'm getting better and better. All right, those are his autosuggestions. Expectancy sets are the beliefs that we have. If we expect certain things to happen, then those things tend to happen. Okay, so expectancy sets condition, ourselves and the universe to sort of move in the direction of those expectancies. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Aladdin's rules for wishes, and finally, Ideo-Dynamic Communication. Very briefly, the body has a certain tendency to be strong in the face of congruent kinds of circumstances, or in the presence of congruent beliefs. Okay? Now they've done a lot of research on it. Well, they haven't done a lot of research, but they've done enough research that we pretty much understand this. The kinesiology that we're talking about is very simple to do. We'll just test the congruency of our suggestions by seeing if our fingers remain strong in the presence of those suggestions. Okay? Because if our fingers do remain strong and we can't break the circle here, that means that the organism itself is saying that those are congruent with everything, that's intended here. If we break the circle, that means they're not congruent, and we have to go back and change them until it is congruent. Okay? Now, the research indicates that this is the one place, the one area where this test actually can be experimentally validated. And so it has been experimentally validated in several studies that when you're dealing with congruent statements, this thing will work. Okay? So, to construct one, first select any kind of an introductory phrase. All right, every day in every way was a meal kues. I would like, I need, I affirm, I command, I demand from the universe. I wish, dear God, please, whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter. Remember, these are just setting up the expectancies. So this is just sort of an introductory phrase to set up the expectancy that what follows is a suggestion. All right? Define the expectancy. First, describe the outcome you desire. Use positive language. For example, if you're trying to control your weight, say, I will become more slender, rather than I will lose weight. Becoming more slender is a positive statement of the same goal. Losing something is sort of a negative way to say it. Okay? My favorite example of this is, and the reason why is because the nervous system itself has to parse the suggestion without the negative first, and then put the negative in and reparse it, just because of the way it works. So if I tell you, please do not think of a purple stop sign. Okay, purple stop sign, oh, don't think of that. Okay. So almost automatically, we have to do what we're not supposed to do before we can not do it. And that's just simply because of the sequential way that the processing works. Mothers have seen this on the playground. You'll be out there, your kids will be playing on the swings or the monkey bars or whatever, and some mother somewhere yells across the field to her son, all right, don't fall. Boom, instantly falls. Thunk. Okay, because that's the command that his nervous system heard. Fall. Oh, don't fall. Instead of hold on tight, which would have had the opposite effect and the desired effect. So it's important to phrase them as positively as we can. Hold on tight rather than don't fall. Be precise, be concrete, use visual, auditory, and kinesthetic descriptions where they're appropriate. Things you can hear, things you can feel, things you can touch, things you can see. Second, describe the actions you will take. This will answer your question. Describe the actions you will take to achieve the outcome. Not just sitting around wishing for it, but any action, even if it's not related to the outcome. We'll see how to do that. We won't worry about that right now. Describe a time frame. I will achieve this by whenever. Okay, beginning, ending, and milestones if they're appropriate. Fourth, describe the methods you will utilize to determine when you've achieved the outcome. Measure it, watch for it, wait for someone to mention it, whatever. Okay, so an example. Here's one that I use periodically when I'm doing weightlifting. Every day in every way, here's my introductory phrase, I am getting stronger and stronger. There's the expectancy. Because, and here's all the things that I'm doing, I am lifting more weight with more reps on a split routine every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So there's the time frame. And because I'm watching Star Trek DVDs. Now, it doesn't matter that watching Star Trek DVDs doesn't technically have anything to do with getting stronger. But because I've linked it with something that does, it actually works. And we can create chains of these things. Okay? I will be able, here's how I'll measure it. I will be able to bench press twice my body weight for 6 repetitions by August 1st, 2012. Okay?
So were you
Yes.
able to?
Yes, actually I was.
Good.
So these are this is what it would look like in its full form. Right, with all of those elements. Okay? Introductory phrase, every day and every way, the expectancy, the time frame, determine when you're done. Okay? Use Maslow's hierarchy to confirm that your expectancies are needs and not wants. Okay. Muscular strength is a component of all 5 levels of the hierarchy. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. So it contributes to all of these things. So it is in fact a need. Muscular strength is not a want, it is a need. If I have increased muscular strength, then all of these things are enhanced. So it fits it passes that test. It is a need, not a want. Use Aladdin's rules for wishes. Okay, remember those? Okay. And then finally, say it to yourself and see if the finger test will confirm that it's congruent. Okay, so you just say it out loud. Basically, while you're holding your fingers like this and pulling against them, and if it is congruent, if each element of it is congruent, you won't be able to break the circle. If any element is incongruent, then voila, this will happen automatically. And that's your test. That's a simple unconscious test to verify the validity. Okay? Any questions about that before we actually start to do this? No? Okay. So we'll go ahead. Let me go change the tape while we just take a brief.
You said that these videos would be available?
Yes, like I said, it's taking me about 2 weeks to get them ready,
Okay.
just because it's kind of complicated.